Hello everyone, the Green Man Bookseller here. Now I've just done a sort of market stall at Shaftesbury Market, first week back after a few weeks. And what I thought I'd do is, because I've got some books by that's been compiled and also authored by Virginia Moffatt, a local lady. So I thought what I'll do is, because I've got her books on my stall, I'll do a little video where she gets to talk about the books that I've got. So you can put a face to a name to the books that hopefully you'll come along and buy. So what I'll do, guys, I'll just twizzle the camera around and let Virginia talk about the books that she's got.
So I'm Virginia Moffatt, and I'm really pleased and grateful to Dave for selling my books on his stall. And I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about books on his stall and a couple of other books I also have. The first one I want to talk about, and the reason I want to talk about this is because this is my most political book that I've been involved in, and it's called Reclaiming the Common Good, and it's got a subtitle, How Christians Can Help Rebuild Our Broken World. And it's a series of essay collections, essays that I compiled with other authors. All of us are Christian writers, and it's a reflection on important issues of the day. This was published in 2017, but it's still really relevant for today. And we're just about to have an election period, so it's a good reading for the election in terms of thinking about what matters in society and how we could improve it. So the areas we look at in this book are about how the market has taken a lot of utilities and services, and whether that's a good or bad thing, depending on your perspective. So when we're thinking about sewage and utilities and waters, that's one of the areas you might be interested in. But it also looks at the impacts on social care services of cuts and benefit cuts, and how that's created homeless and things like that. It also looks at the environment, which obviously climate justice is a huge issue for today. And it also looks at migrant justice. And I really recommend these essays. There's some fantastic writers in here, and it's called Reclaiming the Common Good, and it's published by Dartman Longman and Todd. Okay, so then these are two other publications I also did with Dartman Longman and Todd. They're also faith-based books. Nothing More, Nothing Less is a Lent study guide. You can do it as an individual or as a group, and it uses the film I, Daniel Blake, and scenes from it, and then to explore different issues of justice, like systems of oppression, how to stay human, compassionate, fighting back, and thinking about Jesus as a suffering servant. So that's very good for Lent. And then this one is part of a series of 4 about the Bible and how it can help us understand particular issues. So my contribution to this series was looking at approaching the end of life, but it's also got books one by Frank Cottrell Boyce on forgiveness, his wife Denise on welcoming the stranger, and Bernadette Meading on caring for sick and suffering. So that's another. Those are also religious. That same publisher, DLT. So this collection is my first publication, and I'm really proud of it. It's called Rapture and What Comes After, and it is. I think it's still available via Amazon, but it's also available on Dave's stall. This is a collection of short stories, which are known as flash fiction. The definition being that they're less than 1,000 words. And I started doing flash fiction early on in my writing career, joining an online community, and some of these stories came from that. And Rapture and What Comes Afterwards is reflections of love and good and bad. So the first part, Rapture, looks at perhaps the happy side of love and the moments when you come together with somebody, the excitement, or just celebrating a long-term loving relationship. And the After, which is the second part, is when things maybe don't go quite so well. Things fall apart. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing, sometimes it's heartbreaking, sometimes it's liberating. And I was pretty inspired with this one by William Blake's Songs of Innocence and Experience. It was that sort of idea of mirroring one story. So each story, the happy stories, have a mirror, which is a slightly darker or sadder story. Yeah, and I really like this one, and you can get it on Dave's stall. Echo Hall, unfortunately, is not available at the moment. And that's I've run out of my copies and it's out of print, but I think you still can get it on the internet. You can certainly be able to get second copies on Amazon. Echo Hall was my first novel, and it tells the story of 3 generations of women who experience love, loss and conflict during times of war. So each woman comes to the house at different periods. Ruth in the 1990s, she's just got married, she's about to have a baby, and she's not quite sure of her husband. Elsie lived there in the 1940s when her husband Jack is away in the war. He's fighting with the RAF, and she's living with very, very unpleasant and difficult in-laws. And her only friend is Jack's cousin Daniel, but Daniel's got secrets of his own, and what, for example, why he's not in the war himself. And then the other generation is Rachel, who is in 1911 meets the Flint family who own Echo Hall, and she's supposed to marry Jacob. However, she instead marries Daniel's father, Joseph, who's a Quaker and a pacifist. And that sets her into collision course, not only with her family, but at times with her husband, because she expects him to fight and he chooses not to. So it's exploring through the different women and their relationships with men, what it means to go to war, what it means to resist war, and can conflict ever be resolved. So there's family conflict and there's international conflict. And there it goes, so it's a bit of a gothic story. As I say, it's out of print at the moment, but I'm hoping we'll get it reprinted sometime in the next year. Wave is my second novel, and it's published by Harper One More Chapter. It tells the story of a group of people who realise they can't escape a tsunami, and instead of trying to run from it, decide that they're going to spend the last night of their lives celebrating life and doing things that they love. So they sit on the beach, they surf, they swim, they cook, they eat, they fall in love, they fall out of love. They talk about what's important to them, and they reach out for people in their families and past. So it's a book really about what we do at the end of our lives and what's important to us. And I think we've all lived through COVID in the last few years, and I kind of think that makes it quite relevant and pertinent still. So I hope you'll enjoy this one. And it's available on Dave's stall. Please buy it.